The information presented in this video is intended strictly for educational and entertainment purposes and does not constitute professional business, financial, legal, marketing, or tax advice. Every American small business operates under unique circumstances, and the strategies discussed herein involve inherent risks. Operating a commercial enterprise carries financial liabilities, and viewers must conduct their own comprehensive due diligence before implementing any marketing tactics, software investments, or business restructurings mentioned. The historical trends, case studies, and potential outcomes discussed do not guarantee future performance or success for your specific enterprise. We strongly advise all business owners to consult with certified public accountants, licensed attorneys, and qualified marketing professionals to evaluate their individual situations before making any significant operational or financial decisions. Let us begin with the deeply uncomfortable truth that most digital marketing agencies are actively trying to hide from you right now. At this very second, you do not actually own the audience you think you own. Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning. You are the proud founder of a thriving brick-and-mortar bakery in Chicago, Illinois. Or perhaps you operate a rapidly growing e-commerce apparel brand out of a warehouse in Columbus, Ohio. You reach for your smartphone to check your business's social media accounts, a morning ritual you have meticulously maintained for years. You have spent 3 grueling years building a massive following. You have poured tens of thousands of hard-earned dollars into targeted advertisements. You have spent countless exhausted nights filming and editing video content, and you finally crossed that coveted milestone of 100,000 engaged followers. Your daily revenue, your employee payroll, and your fundamental ability to keep the lights on are tied directly to the traffic generated by this specific platform. But when you open the application, your screen goes completely blank. A sterile, automated notification pops up. Your account has been permanently suspended for violating community guidelines. There was no prior warning. There is no human being you can call on the telephone to explain the situation or plead your case. There is no transparent appeal process that provides a meaningful response within any reasonable time frame. There is just a cold algorithmic message that has effectively wiped out your entire customer base in a fraction of a second. This is not some exaggerated, hypothetical nightmare scenario designed to simply grab your attention. This is a brutal operational reality that is happening to American small businesses every single day across the country. We are currently witnessing the most volatile digital landscape in the history of modern commerce. When you build your entire business model exclusively on the back of third-party social media platforms, you are doing the digital real estate equivalent of building a multi-million-dollar mansion on rented land. You do not own the foundation beneath your feet. The landlords, the executives sitting in boardrooms in Silicon Valley, have the ultimate, unchecked authority to change the locks, double your rent, or bulldoze your property without your permission or your input. Over the past few years, historical trends have shown a catastrophic decline in organic reach. Back in the early days of social networks, if your business page had 10,000 followers, a vast majority of those individuals would actually see the products, promotions, or services you posted. Today, organic reach on major platforms has plummeted to less than 2% for many business accounts. You are essentially screaming into an empty void, hoping that a highly complex, constantly shifting algorithmic code decides to show your meticulously crafted content to the exact people who explicitly opted in to see it. And if you attempt to circumvent this invisible barrier by paying for advertisements, you are stepping into a hyper-competitive arena where customer acquisition costs are skyrocketing out of control. With recent major privacy updates from tech giants severely restricting data tracking capabilities, the cost to acquire a single paying customer through social media advertising has become mathematically unsustainable for the average local boutique, independent contractor, or family-owned restaurant. You are trapped in a vicious, exhausting cycle, forced to pay a technology conglomerate every single day just to communicate with the customers who already bought from you. It is a fundamental, structural flaw in your business architecture, and it is silently draining your profit margins dry. Today, we are permanently dismantling this deeply flawed system and addressing the exact solution this brings to your enterprise. We are going to explore the single most vital asset your American small business needs to develop immediately to survive and thrive in the current economic climate. An asset that no sudden algorithm update can destroy, no shadow ban can hide, and no corporate policy change can suddenly confiscate from you. We are talking about the profound, undeniable power of a fully owned, highly nurtured email list. Throughout this comprehensive masterclass, I am going to reveal the exact architecture of direct consumer communication, I will show you why building an email list is the ultimate insurance policy for your revenue stream. We will dive deep into documented case studies of local brick-and-mortar establishments and national digital-first brands that have completely insulated themselves from the chaos of social media by migrating their audience into an ecosystem they completely control. You will discover historical trends demonstrating how email marketing consistently yields potential outcomes and a return on investment that absolutely eclipses every other form of digital outreach combined. We will break down the precise psychology of why an email subscriber is exponentially more valuable than a social media follower, analyzing the intimate, professional nature of the digital inbox compared to the fleeting, distraction-filled environment of an endless social feed. I am going to walk you through the structural steps required to turn casual, passing website visitors and social media scrollers into lifelong subscribers who actively anticipate your messages. We will cover the specific mechanisms of lead generation, the psychological triggers that compel individuals to hand over their contact information willingly, and the exact frameworks required to build a relationship based on trust, value, and authority, rather than desperate, aggressive sales pitches. Whether you are a solo entrepreneur operating a consulting firm in New York or a third-generation hardware store owner in rural Montana, the strategies detailed in this presentation are designed to provide you with a robust mechanism for generating predictable, on-demand interest. By the time we conclude this deep dive, you will possess a complete step-by-step methodology to reclaim ownership of your audience, drastically reduce your reliance on expensive paid advertisements, and establish a direct, unbreakable line of communication with the people who actually fund your business. This is about taking back control from the algorithms. This is about building true, lasting enterprise value that you own outright. Let us look at a highly specific, practical scenario unfolding right now in 2026. Consider the case study of Michael, the founder of an independent artisanal coffee roasting company based in Seattle, Washington. Over the course of 3 years, Michael poured his heart, soul, and marketing budget into building a massive following on a major visual-based social network. By early 2025, he had reached 250,000 followers. His aesthetic espresso pouring videos routinely gathered tens of thousands of views, and the direct correlation to his weekly sales was undeniable. He felt invincible. He felt he had cracked the digital code. But then, an arbitrary algorithm update was deployed overnight. The platform decided to pivot aggressively toward a new integrated shopping feature, severely throttling the organic reach of any post that linked off the platform to an external website. Within 72 hours, Michael watched his video views plummet by 80%. His website traffic flatlined. His daily roasting volume dropped so drastically, he had to cut the hours of his 3 part-time employees. Michael realized far too late that he did not actually own 250,000 customers. He merely had temporary, heavily conditional access to them. He had built his entire American dream on a foundation controlled by a faceless corporation hundreds of miles away. Now, imagine if Michael had understood the historical trends of digital marketing and operated differently. Imagine if, instead of celebrating a vanity metric like a follower count, his primary objective for every single video, every single post, and every single interaction was to migrate those viewers off the rented platform and onto an asset he controlled. Imagine if he had captured the email addresses of just 5% of that audience. That would be 12,500 dedicated, hyper-targeted local and national coffee enthusiasts sitting securely in his private database. When that algorithm shifted in 2026, Michael would not have panicked. He would have simply drafted a targeted, engaging email campaign about his newest single origin roast, hit send, and immediately generated predictable revenue, completely bypassing the technological gatekeepers. This stark contrast leads us to the fundamental psychology of the digital inbox. You must understand why an email subscriber holds exponentially more enterprise value than a social media follower. When a user scrolls through a social feed, they are in a state of continuous passive consumption. They are rapidly swiping past news updates, videos of family members, political arguments, and highly polished corporate advertisements. It is a chaotic, noisy, and highly distracted environment. Your business is just a momentary blip in their dopamine-driven scrolling session. However, the inbox is entirely different. The email inbox is the modern consumer digital living room. It is a highly curated, personal space. In 2026, Americans are fiercely protective of their primary email addresses. With the overwhelming influx of daily spam and digital noise, giving a business explicit permission to enter their inbox is the highest form of digital trust an individual can bestow. When you send an email, You are not competing with an endless algorithmic feed designed to maximize user watch time at your expense. You are delivering a direct one-to-one message that sits patiently waiting for the recipient to open it on their own terms. Case studies consistently demonstrate that the intentionality behind opening an email results in significantly higher conversion rates. We are talking about potential outcomes where a well-nurtured email list can generate returns that dwarf any paid social media campaign. Furthermore, consider the raw economics of customer acquisition. In the current business climate, the cost to acquire a new customer through paid advertising has reached historical highs. Data privacy regulations and increased market saturation have made it incredibly expensive to find a buyer for the first time. If you have to pay a tech giant every single time you want to announce a new product, a holiday sale, or a special event to the exact same people who have already bought from you, your profit margins will eventually collapse under the weight of those recurring advertising costs. An email list fundamentally breaks this toxic cycle. Once a prospective customer joins your database, the cost to communicate with them drops to effectively zero. You own the distribution channel. You can reach out to them next week, next month, or next year, building a cumulative relationship that drastically increases the lifetime value of that specific buyer. This is how you build a resilient, multi-generational small business. You insulate your revenue from external technological shocks. Moreover, if you ever plan to sell your business, perhaps a family-owned hardware store in Ohio or a boutique consulting firm in Atlanta, potential buyers and valuation experts will look directly at your customer data. A business with 100,000 social media followers, but zero contact information is valued as a high-risk liability. A business with an engaged, meticulously maintained email list of 20,000 previous buyers is viewed as a highly stable premium asset with predictable future cash flow. You are literally increasing the hard financial valuation of your enterprise every time a new subscriber opts in. But realizing you need an email list is only the first step of this commercial evolution. This brings us to a critical, catastrophic roadblock where the vast majority of American business owners fail completely. You cannot simply place a generic, boring box at the bottom of your website that says "Join our newsletter" and expect modern consumers to comply. That strategy died over a decade ago. Today, in 2026, consumers are absolutely ruthless with their attention and their privacy. They know exactly what happens when they hand over their email address. They know the potential barrage of promotional noise that might follow. Therefore, to convince a skeptical, highly guarded individual to grant you access to their inbox, you must engineer a highly specific, flawlessly executed value exchange. You need a mechanism so compelling, so precisely targeted to their immediate pain points, that they feel foolish not trading their contact information for it. There is a distinct psychological framework for capturing these leads that has proven incredibly effective this year, rendering traditional methods completely obsolete. If you rely on outdated tactics, you will not only fail to capture leads, but you will permanently alienate your ideal demographic. So, what exactly is this modern framework for capturing high-value subscribers, and how do you implement it without looking like a desperate salesperson? Let us break down the exact architecture of an irresistible digital offer. To understand this architecture, you must first accept that an email address in 2026 is not merely a piece of contact data. It is a highly guarded form of digital currency. When a consumer visits your small business website, they are instantly running a subconscious risk assessment. They are calculating the exact probability that giving you their email will result in a relentless barrage of spam, useless company updates, and aggressive sales pitches. If the perceived risk outweighs the immediate reward, they will bounce from your website and you will likely never see them again. The outdated method of placing a tiny, generic box in the footer of your website that simply says "Subscribe to our newsletter" provides absolutely zero reward. It offers no solution, no value, and no compelling reason for a transaction to occur. To overcome this massive wall of consumer skepticism, you must engineer what the digital marketing industry refers to as an ethical bribe, or a high-value lead magnet. This is a specific, highly desirable piece of digital content or an exclusive resource that solves one immediate, painful problem for your ideal customer, offered entirely for free in exchange for their contact information. Let us examine the historical trends and practical application of this concept through a real-world case study. Consider Sarah, the owner of a mid-sized family-operated heating and air conditioning repair service in Phoenix, Arizona. For years, Sarah relied on expensive local billboard advertising and a website that featured a standard contact form and a generic newsletter subscription box. Her website conversion rate was effectively zero, Homeowners in Phoenix, facing brutal summer temperatures, were not visiting her site to read a newsletter about company culture. They were visiting because they were terrified their air conditioning unit was going to fail in the middle of July. Recognizing this specific consumer anxiety, Sarah completely restructured her digital offer. She removed the useless newsletter box and replaced it with a highly visible, instantly downloadable digital guide titled the 2026 Phoenix Homeowner Emergency Checklist: 7 silent warning signs your AC unit is about to fail, and how to prevent a $10,000 replacement. This specific offer represents the flawless execution of an irresistible lead magnet. First, it addresses an immediate, localized, and highly expensive pain point that her exact target demographic is currently worrying about. Second, it provides instant gratification. The homeowner receives the diagnostic checklist the moment they enter their email address. Third, it positions Sarah's business not as a desperate service provider begging for a call, but as a proactive, authoritative local expert. The potential outcomes of this strategic shift were monumental for her enterprise. Instead of passively waiting for an air conditioning unit to break and hoping the customer remembered her billboard, Sarah began capturing the contact information of hundreds of local homeowners who were actively researching HVAC maintenance. She was building an owned audience of highly qualified local leads. When summer finally hit, she did not need to run expensive emergency social media advertisements. She simply emailed her curated list of subscribers with a seasonal tune-up offer, filling her technician schedules for the entire season at a fraction of her previous customer acquisition cost. The architecture of a successful lead magnet relies on extreme specificity, rather than broad, diluted information. A common mistake American small business owners make is attempting to pack their entire professional expertise into a massive 50-page electronic book. In our current fast-paced, high-distraction digital economy, nobody has the time or the attention span to read a 50-page manual from a business they just discovered. The most effective lead magnets are highly actionable resources that can be fully consumed and applied in under 10 minutes. You must identify the single most urgent, bleeding neck problem your customer faces right before they realize they need to purchase your product or service. If you are a certified public accountant in Chicago, your lead magnet should not be a comprehensive guide to the entire United States tax code. Instead, it should be a highly targeted, one-page calculator or a checklist titled the 5 most overlooked deductions for Illinois independent contractors in 2026. This hyper-specific approach filters out unqualified leads and attracts the exact demographic actively seeking your specialized knowledge. This framework is not limited to service-based industries. It is equally vital for e-commerce brands. Let us look at David, who runs a direct-to-consumer custom leather goods workshop based in Austin, Texas. Like most e-commerce founders, David initially relied on the standard website pop-up offering 10% off the first order in exchange for an email address. While this tactic generates a baseline level of conversions, historical trends indicate it often attracts bargain hunters who use a fake or secondary email address purely to grab the discount code, completely ruining the long-term deliverability and engagement metrics of the business database. To build a higher quality audience, David evolved his strategy. He created a comprehensive, beautifully produced 5-minute video masterclass on how to properly condition, waterproof, and restore heritage leather boots, a topic his specific target audience of outdoor enthusiasts is deeply passionate about. He paired this exclusive video access with a private invitation to his VIP early access list, which included the standard discount. By elevating the offer from a simple, transactional discount to an educational, value-driven experience, David not only captured primary email addresses, but immediately established incredible brand loyalty and authority before the customer ever made their first purchase. Imagine if you could deploy this exact psychological architecture across your entire digital footprint today. Imagine if every single visitor who landed on your website, clicked on your social media profile, or found your business through a local search engine was immediately presented with an offer so compelling that they willingly and eagerly handed over their direct contact information. You would transition your business from a leaky bucket, where expensive traffic bounces away forever, into a highly efficient lead capture machine that builds your most valuable corporate asset 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You would no longer be reliant on the unpredictable whims of Silicon Valley algorithms, because you would own the direct distribution channel to your target market. However, capturing the email address is only the first millimeter of the journey. Once that potential customer enters their information and downloads your ethical bribe, an invisible, high-stakes timer instantly begins counting down. You have successfully bypassed their digital defenses and gained entry into their private inbox. But your position is incredibly fragile. The actions you take in the immediate 48 hours after they subscribe will dictate whether they become a lifelong, highly lucrative customer or if they instantly hit the unsubscribe button, report your domain as spam, and permanently block your business from their life. Many small business owners make a fatal catastrophic error the moment they acquire a new lead, completely destroying the trust they just worked so hard to build. What is this massive mistake, and how do you engineer a communication sequence that actually forces your new subscriber to look forward to your next message? The massive mistake that completely destroys this hard-earned trust is executing what the digital marketing industry calls the immediate bait and switch. Picture the exact sequence of events from the perspective of your potential customer. They have just identified a painful problem in their life or business. They searched for a solution, found your website, and took a calculated risk by giving you their highly guarded email address in exchange for your educational resource. They are currently in a state of tentative anticipation. They are waiting for you to deliver exactly what you stated you would deliver. Instead, the very first email they receive from your company completely ignores the educational resource and aggressively pitches a high-ticket service, a massive consulting retainer, or a heavy-handed product discount. You have fundamentally violated the unspoken psychological contract of the digital value exchange. You treated their private inbox like a cheap, transactional automated teller machine, rather than the foundation of a professional relationship. Imagine if you walked into a high-end physical retail store, just to browse and perhaps ask a simple question about a product. The moment you step through the glass doors, before you can even take a breath, a commissioned salesperson aggressively blocks your path, completely ignores your question, and starts screaming at you to purchase their most expensive inventory right now. You would immediately turn around, walk out the door, and likely never return to that establishment. This deeply uncomfortable, highly aggressive physical interaction is the exact digital equivalent of pitching your new email subscriber the moment they opt into your list. In the year 2026, consumers have absolutely zero tolerance for this aggressive behavior. If you execute this bait and switch, the potential outcomes are catastrophic for your digital infrastructure. The user will immediately hit the unsubscribe button, or worse, they will manually flag your message as spam. You must understand the technical realities of modern email deliverability. Major email service providers utilize highly advanced artificial intelligence algorithms to constantly monitor how users interact with your messages. They measure your open rates, your click-through rates, and your spam complaint ratios with absolute precision. If a significant portion of your new subscribers immediately delete your first email without opening it, or if they drag your message into the spam folder, these algorithms instantly categorize your entire business domain as a low-quality nuisance. Within a matter of weeks, every single email you send, even to your most loyal long-term customers, will automatically be routed directly into the promotional tab or the dreaded junk folder. You will effectively become invisible. Your open rates will flatline, your revenue from email marketing will evaporate, and you will have permanently damaged the digital reputation of your American small business. To prevent this technical and psychological disaster, you must implement a highly structured, carefully paced communication framework known as the indoctrination sequence or the welcome series. This is an automated sequence of 3 to 5 emails deployed over the first week after a user subscribes. The sole objective of this sequence is not to generate immediate, aggressive sales. The objective is to establish authority, build profound empathy, and train your new subscriber to actively look forward to opening your future messages. Let us examine the historical trends of successful email onboarding through a highly specific case study. Consider Marcus, the owner of a premium outdoor living and hardscaping company based in Atlanta, Georgia. In the early days of his business, Marcus utilized a fantastic lead magnet titled the 2026 Georgia Homeowner Guide to designing a weatherproof outdoor kitchen. Homeowners loved the concept and opted in daily. However, Marcus made the fatal mistake of immediately following up the free download with an aggressive email demanding they book a $25,000 patio consultation. His spam complaints skyrocketed, and his domain reputation was nearly destroyed. Realizing his error, Marcus completely re-engineered his approach and implemented a proper welcome sequence. The new strategy began with the delivery email, sent instantly the second the user subscribed. The psychology of this first email must be entirely focused on fulfillment and extreme clarity. Marcus removed all sales language. His subject line simply read, "Here is your outdoor kitchen guide." Exactly as requested. Inside the email, he warmly welcomed the homeowner, provided a highly visible, frictionless link to download the promised document, and introduced a crucial psychological element known as the open loop. At the very bottom of this short, polite email, he wrote a simple sentence stating that tomorrow, he would be sending them a completely separate email revealing the single most expensive mistake Atlanta homeowners make when choosing paving stones, a mistake that costs thousands in water damage. By doing this, Marcus successfully delivered the immediate value, asked for absolutely nothing in return, and planted a powerful seed of curiosity that gave the subscriber a specific, highly beneficial reason to watch out for his name in their inbox the following morning. The next day, 24 hours later, the automated system deployed the second email. This is the empathy and origin story phase. People do not connect with faceless corporate logos. They connect with other human beings who understand their specific struggles. In this email, Marcus did not pitch a patio installation. Instead, he told a brief, highly engaging story about his own early failures in the industry. He described a time years ago when he used inferior materials on his own family home, resulting in a flooded backyard and ruined family gatherings. He explained the deep frustration and financial pain of that experience, and how that specific failure forced him to dedicate his career to mastering proper drainage and high-quality hardscaping techniques. He humanized his brand. He demonstrated that he was not just a contractor looking for a check, but a passionate expert who fundamentally understood the exact anxieties his potential customers were facing. Historical trends show that this type of vulnerable, story-driven communication drastically increases brand loyalty and significantly lowers consumer defense mechanisms. On the third day, Marcus delivered the paradigm shift email. This is where you provide an unexpected piece of high-level education that fundamentally changes how the subscriber views their problem. Marcus sent the promised email about paving stones, explaining the hidden complexities of soil erosion in the specific climate of Atlanta, Georgia. He provided immense, actionable value entirely for free, positioning his business as the undeniable premier authority in his local market. By the time this 3-day sequence concluded, Marcus had completely transformed a cold, skeptical internet stranger into a highly educated, emotionally invested fan of his business. The potential outcomes of this newly engineered sequence were staggering, because he built a foundation of immense trust and undeniable value first. When Marcus finally introduced a soft, polite invitation for a design consultation in the fourth email, his conversion rates exploded. His calendar filled with highly qualified homeowners who already respected his expertise, entirely eliminating the friction of traditional sales pitches. Imagine if your American small business operated with this level of automated sophistication. Imagine if every new lead was gently guided through a meticulously crafted psychological journey that systematically erased their objections and amplified your authority, all while you slept or focused on operating your business. You have successfully navigated the most critical 48 hours of the customer relationship. You have established trust, delivered immense value, and avoided the dreaded spam folder. But eventually, a business must generate revenue. You cannot simply send free educational stories forever. You must eventually ask for the sale. The transition from being a helpful educational resource to effectively closing highly profitable deals requires a delicate, highly specific mechanism. If you pivot too aggressively, you shatter the trust you just built. If you are too passive, you never monetize the asset. How do you seamlessly bridge this massive gap and turn those loyal, educated subscribers into paying, enthusiastic customers without ever feeling like a sleazy, high-pressure salesperson? To seamlessly bridge this massive gap, you must fundamentally understand the psychological concept of the educational pivot. Many American small business owners fall into a very specific, dangerous trap when they start building an email list. They are so terrified of sounding like a sleazy, high-pressure salesperson that they swing the pendulum entirely to the opposite extreme. They spend months, sometimes years, sending out incredibly helpful, purely educational emails without ever once making a direct, clear offer to their audience. While this feels safe and comfortable, historical trends prove that this strategy inevitably places your business in the dreaded commercial friend zone. If you train your subscribers to only ever expect free information from you, you are conditioning them to view you exclusively as a free resource library, not as a premium service provider or a retail destination. When you eventually run into a cash flow problem and suddenly blast out an aggressive sales email out of sheer desperation, your audience will feel completely blindsided and betrayed. They will unsubscribe in droves because you violated the established cadence of the relationship. The secret to monetizing your email list in 2026 without alienating your audience is realizing that selling, when done correctly, is actually the ultimate form of customer service. If you possess a product or a service that genuinely solves a painful problem for your demographic, it is your professional obligation to offer it to them clearly and consistently. The educational pivot is the precise structural framework that allows you to do exactly this. Let us examine a real-world application of this framework through the case study of Jessica, the founder of a premium residential organization and interior decluttering consultancy based in Denver, Colorado. Prior to understanding this concept, Jessica had a robust email list of 5,000 local homeowners, but her conversion rate was essentially zero. She would send out weekly newsletters featuring beautiful photographs of organized pantries and a few simple folding techniques. Her audience loved the emails, her open rates were fantastic, but her actual service calendar remained completely empty. She was giving away the entirety of her expertise for free and hoping her subscribers would miraculously figure out how to hire her. Jessica decided to restructure her weekly communication using the 4-stage educational pivot, which consists of the hook, the lesson, the wall, and the bridge. In her next campaign, she started with the hook, addressing a highly specific, universal frustration her audience faced. Her subject line did not say "hire me to clean your house." Instead, it read "why your master bedroom closet always becomes a disaster zone again within 3 weeks." This immediately captured attention because it spoke directly to a persistent, irritating reality. The second stage, the lesson, provided immediate, actionable value. Inside the email, Jessica explained the psychological difference between macro-sorting your clothes by season and micro-zoning them by daily utility. She gave them a tangible, useful piece of professional strategy entirely for free, reinforcing her authority and proving her competence. This brings us to the third and most critical stage of the pivot, the wall. The wall is the psychological moment in the email where you gently remind the reader of the immense difficulty, the required time investment, and the physical labor necessary to actually implement the lesson perfectly on their own. Jessica explained that while microzoning is the ultimate solution, executing it correctly requires completely emptying the closet, measuring every inch of usable vertical space, spending hours sourcing the exact custom modular storage systems that fit unique Denver architectural layouts, and dedicating an entire weekend to physical installation. She painted a very clear, realistic picture of the overwhelming DIY process. She did not exaggerate the difficulty, she merely stated the factual reality of the labor involved. Finally, she introduced the bridge. The bridge is where you seamlessly present your paid product or service as the logical, frictionless alternative to hitting the wall. Jessica simply wrote that if the reader loved the idea of a perfectly microzoned closet, but simply did not have 40 hours of free time this month to measure, source, and install everything themselves, they could simply tap the link below to book her done-for-you closet transformation service. She explained that her team would arrive on a Tuesday morning and by Wednesday evening, the entire project would be flawlessly completed while the homeowner was at work. She did not use high-pressure tactics. She did not use red text or countdown timers. She simply presented a highly logical, deeply desirable alternative to doing the hard work themselves. The potential outcomes of this single, strategically structured email were transformative for her business. By using the educational pivot, Jessica booked her entire spring calendar solid within 48 hours, generating tens of thousands of dollars in revenue from the exact same list of people who had previously never spent a dime. Another incredibly powerful, low-friction conversion mechanism you must deploy in 2026 is known as the super signature. Consumer behavior data indicates that the postscript, or the PS section at the very bottom of an email, is consistently the second most highly read piece of text after the subject line. In our fast-paced digital economy, many readers will open an email, rapidly skim the body copy, and scroll directly to the bottom to see the final concluding thought. If you are leaving your PS area blank, you are ignoring the most valuable digital real estate in your entire marketing ecosystem. The super signature transforms this bottom section into a permanent, non-intrusive storefront. Instead of dedicating the entire body of your email to a pitch, you can send a message that is 100% pure educational value, completely devoid of any sales language in the main text. Then, at the very bottom, right below your sign-off, you implement a standardized menu of options. It typically begins with a polite transition phrase such as, "Whenever you are ready, here are 3 specific ways we can help you grow your business, or improve your home, or solve your specific problem." Below that phrase, you provide 3 distinct, hyperlinked options escalating in commitment level. Option 1 might be a low-friction entry point, such as purchasing a small digital product or a trial-sized physical item. Option 2 might be a mid-tier commitment, like registering for an upcoming paid webinar or buying a core product bundle. Option 3 is always your premium, highest ticket offering, such as applying for private consulting or booking a massive comprehensive service package. Imagine if your American small business operated with this level of elegant sophistication. Every single week, you are arriving in your potential customer's inbox delivering immense, undeniable value that genuinely helps them. You are consistently building a reservoir of goodwill and trust. Yet, simultaneously, without ever sounding desperate or aggressive, you are constantly reminding them exactly how they can give you money to solve their problems faster and more efficiently. You are removing all the friction from the buying process and placing the power of choice entirely in their hands. The sales simply become a natural, inevitable byproduct of your relentless generosity and your strategic positioning. However, relying exclusively on soft pivots and super signatures is only sufficient for maintaining baseline, consistent cash flow. Every American small business eventually encounters moments throughout the calendar year where they need to generate massive, immediate surges of revenue. Perhaps you are launching a brand new flagship product, preparing for the intense retail season of Black Friday, or trying to liquidate older inventory to free up warehouse space. In these specific high-stakes scenarios, a gentle postscript is entirely inadequate. You cannot just whisper your offer when you need to drive thousands of people to take immediate, urgent action. You must deploy a dedicated, highly orchestrated promotional campaign. There is a specific sequential 5-day email architecture utilized by the most profitable direct-to-consumer brands and elite consulting firms in the United States today. This sequence is designed to build overwhelming anticipation, construct an undeniable logical argument for your product, and engineer authentic, ethical scarcity that compels the reader to pull out their credit card before a hard deadline expires. If you attempt a hard promotional push and execute this rhythm incorrectly, you will trigger mass unsubscribes and irreparably damage your domain reputation. But if you follow the precise psychological pacing of this 5-day masterclass sequence, the financial results can redefine your entire fiscal year. How exactly do you construct this high-pressure campaign without burning your carefully nurtured audience to the ground? To construct a high-pressure campaign that maximizes potential outcomes without incinerating your brand equity, you must adopt a framework known as the 5-day pressure release sequence. Most American small business owners approach a promotion with a single desperate email on a Friday morning, effectively shouting at their audience to buy now before a sale ends. This is the digital equivalent of a frantic clearance sale at a struggling strip mall. It lacks narrative, it lacks psychological tension, and most importantly, it lacks a logical reason for the consumer to act. In 2026, the sophisticated consumer requires a narrative arc. They need to be led through a sequence that builds anticipation, addresses their skepticism, and finally provides a hard, non-negotiable deadline that forces a decision. If you do not provide a deadline, you are not running a promotion. You are simply making a suggestion, and in a high-distraction economy, suggestions are ignored. Let us analyze the architecture of this 5-day sequence through a case study involving a character named Robert, who owns a specialized woodworking and custom furniture business in Asheville, North Carolina. Robert had spent 2 years building an email list of 4,000 high-end homeowners and interior designers. He wanted to launch a new line of limited edition walnut dining tables, but he knew that a single blast would likely result in low engagement. Instead, he deployed the pressure release sequence. Day 1 is the announcement and the why. This is not a sales pitch. It is a story. Robert sent an email on Monday morning titled "Something I Have Been Working On for 6 months." In this email, he shared the origin story of the walnut slabs he had sourced, the specific craftsmanship challenges he overcame, and most importantly, the why behind the product. He explained that he wanted to create a piece that would last for 3 generations. He did not provide a link to buy. He simply told his audience that on Wednesday, he would be releasing exactly 12 of these tables at a special introductory rate for his email subscribers only. By withholding the link to purchase, Robert created a massive open loop. He built anticipation. He shifted the power dynamic from him begging for a sale to the audience waiting for an opportunity. Day 2 is the social proof and logic day. On Tuesday, Robert sent an email featuring a case study of a previous client, a local restaurant owner who had commissioned a similar custom piece. He detailed the specific impact the furniture had on the ambience and the feedback from customers. He used this day to answer the unasked questions. Is this worth the price? Does this brand deliver on its claims? By focusing on the potential outcomes others had experienced, he provided the logical justification the consumer needed to authorize a luxury purchase. Again, he reminded them that the window would open the next morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Day 3 is the launch and the surge. On Wednesday morning, the link finally goes live. This is the highest volume day for sales, but it is also where the psychological pressure begins. Robert's email was simple and direct. The Walnut Collection is live. Here is the link. Because he had spent 48 hours building tension, a significant portion of his 12 tables sold out within the first hour. However, the sequence does not stop there. The biggest mistake you can make is stopping on launch day. Day 4 is the FAQ and objection handling day. On Thursday, Robert sent an email titled "Your Questions About the Walnut Collection." He addressed the most common hesitations he had heard: shipping logistics to different states, maintenance requirements for the wood, and financing options. He was not selling. He was removing friction. He was making it as easy as possible for the person sitting on the fence to say yes. He also introduced the first mention of the deadline, noting that the introductory pricing would vanish on Friday at midnight. Day 5 is the deadline and the close. This is the day of maximum pressure. Robert sent 2 emails on Friday. The first, in the morning, reminded everyone that only 3 tables remained. The second, sent 6 hours before the midnight deadline, was a short, punchy note titled "Last Chance for the Walnut Collection." Historical trends in e-commerce consistently show that up to 50% of total campaign revenue is generated in the final 12 hours of a promotion. Humans are chronic procrastinators. Without the hard deadline of the price increasing or the inventory disappearing, the consumer will tell themselves they will buy it tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. By the time the clock struck midnight, Robert had sold all 12 tables, generated a massive surge of cash flow, and most importantly, he had done so by providing an engaging, high-value narrative that his audience actually enjoyed reading. Imagine if you could replicate this surge every quarter in your business. Imagine the stability of knowing that you have a documented, repeatable process to generate revenue on demand. This is the power of an owned asset. You are no longer praying for a viral video or a lucky break from an algorithm. You are the architect of your own financial results. However, there is a technical side to this that we must address if you want to scale this beyond a few hundred people. As your list grows from 1,000 to 10,000, and eventually to 100,000 subscribers, you cannot treat everyone the same. If you send the exact same email to a brand new subscriber who just joined yesterday and a loyal customer who has spent $5,000 with you over the last 3 years, you are failing at basic marketing hygiene. You are being irrelevant to at least half of your audience. In 2026, the era of the mass blast newsletter is officially dead. The future of American small business growth lies in a concept called behavioral segmentation. This is the ability to automatically categorize your subscribers based on their specific actions, interests, and buying patterns. If you master this, your open rates will stay high, and your unsubscribe rates will plummet because you will only ever send people exactly what they want to see. But how do you actually implement this level of automation without needing a degree in computer science or a massive IT department? How do you make your email software do the heavy lifting for you while you focus on the core of your business? There is a specific 3-tag system that allows any small business owner to automate their entire marketing department in less than a weekend. The 3-tag system is the fundamental architecture of modern marketing automation for the American small business owner in 2026. Without this system, your email list is just a massive unorganized bucket of names. With it, your email list becomes a precision-guided revenue engine that speaks to every customer as an individual. Historically, segmentation was a complex process reserved for Fortune 500 companies with massive database engineering teams. Today, thanks to the evolution of accessible marketing software, you can implement this same level of sophistication by using 3 specific categories of digital labels, or tags, that are automatically applied to your subscribers based on their behavior. These 3 categories are interest tags, behavior tags, and transactional tags. Let us explore the practical application of this system through the case study of a character named Elena, who owns a boutique fitness and wellness studio in Austin, Texas. Elena offers 3 distinct services: high-intensity interval training, restorative yoga, and personalized nutritional coaching. Before implementing the 3-tag system, Elena would send the same weekly email to her entire list of 3,000 people. If she sent an email promoting a discount on yoga mats, her hit enthusiasts would ignore it. If she sent a technical guide on protein macro tracking, Her yoga students felt overwhelmed and unsubscribed. Her relevance was low, and her engagement was declining. Elena began by implementing interest tags. These tags are applied the moment a person enters your ecosystem. When a visitor arrived at Elena's website, they were presented with 3 different lead magnets. One was a guide to increasing your vertical jump, another was a video on relieving lower back pain through stretching, and the third was a meal prep checklist. Depending on which guide the user downloaded, Elena's software automatically applied a tag: HIIT interest, yoga interest, or nutrition interest. Imagine the power of this immediate categorization. When Elena has a last-minute opening for a yoga workshop on a Saturday morning, she no longer blasts her entire list. She sends a targeted, highly relevant invitation only to those tagged with yoga interest. The potential outcomes of this strategy are a significantly higher open rate and a much lower unsubscribe rate, because she is only sending information that the recipient has already signaled they want to receive. The second layer is the behavior tag. This is where the automation truly begins to feel like a full-time marketing assistant. Behavior tags are triggered by how a subscriber interacts with your actual emails. Let us say Elena sends a general newsletter about wellness trends in 2026. Inside that email, there are 2 distinct buttons. One button says read more about the benefits of cold plunging, and the other says click here to learn about our new heavy lifting program. If a subscriber clicks the heavy lifting link, the software instantly applies a tag called heavy lifting prospect. This tag serves as a digital flare. It tells Elena that this specific person is currently thinking about strength training. This trigger can then launch a separate, automated 3-day email sequence specifically about her strength training classes, complete with student testimonials and a special introductory offer. Elena did not have to lift a finger to identify this prospect or follow up with them. The behavior tag did the work in the background while she was teaching a class. The third and most critical layer is the transactional tag. This identifies the status of the subscriber in relation to your revenue. Are they a prospect, a one-time buyer, or a VIP repeat customer? In 2026, the way you speak to a person who has never given you $1 should be vastly different from how you speak to a person who has spent $5,000 at your business. When a subscriber makes their first purchase, the system automatically removes the prospect tag and applies the customer tag. This is vital because it prevents the awkward and brand-damaging mistake of sending a new customer discount offer to someone who already paid full price yesterday. Conversely, for those tagged as VIP repeat customers, Elena can set up an automation that sends a personalized thank you note from her directly once they reach a certain spending threshold, perhaps including an exclusive invitation to a private event. Imagine if every interaction in your business was this personalized. Imagine a customer in 2026 who feels like you are reading their mind because every email they receive from you arrives at the perfect time and addresses the exact topic they were just researching. This level of relevance builds a psychological bond that social media can never replicate. You are no longer a generic business. You are a trusted advisor who understands their specific journey. This 3-tag system creates a self-cleaning, self-segmenting database that grows in value and intelligence every single day. However, even with the most sophisticated automation and the most precise tags, your email list is completely worthless if your messages never actually reach the inbox. We are currently living in an era where the major email providers, such as Google and Microsoft, have deployed the most aggressive spam filters in history. They are no longer just looking for keywords like free or win. They are analyzing the technical reputation of your sending domain and the engagement history of your IP address. There is a silent war happening behind the scenes of every email you send. If you do not understand the technical requirements of sender authentication in 2026, you could be spending hours crafting the perfect, tagged, and segmented campaign, only for it to be instantly vaporized by a server-level block. Most small business owners are completely unaware that their digital delivery trucks are currently driving around with flat tires and empty gas tanks. They are unknowingly committing technical errors that signal to the internet that their business is a source of low-quality noise. There are 3 specific technical protocols that are now mandatory for any American business that wants to ensure their emails land in the primary inbox, rather than the black hole of the spam folder. If you haven't verified these settings in your domain registrar, you are essentially shouting into a vacuum. What are these 3 invisible technical pillars, and how can you fix them in 10 minutes to ensure your voice is actually heard? The 3 invisible technical pillars you must master are SPF, DKIM, and MARC. In the professional landscape of 2026, these are no longer optional settings for tech enthusiasts. They are the baseline requirements for any American small business that intends to use email as a reliable revenue channel. Think of these protocols as the digital passport and visa system for your business. If your documents are not in order, the border guards of the internet, the sophisticated spam filters managed by major providers, will simply refuse entry to your messages. Historically, many small business owners ignored these settings because their email service providers managed a portion of them in the background. However, recent historical trends in cybersecurity and anti-spam legislation have forced a shift. Today, the burden of proof is on the sender. You must explicitly prove that you are who you say you are, or your voice will be silenced. The first pillar is SPF, or Sender Policy Framework. Imagine you own a high-end landscaping company in Denver, Colorado. You use a specific software to send your marketing emails. SPF is essentially a public-facing list of authorized delivery trucks that are allowed to carry your business mail. You publish this list in your domain's DNS settings. When your email arrives at a customer's inbox, the receiving server looks at the list. If the server sending the email is on your approved list, the message is allowed through. If it is not, the filter assumes a hacker or a spammer is trying to spoof your identity. Without a correctly configured SPF record, your emails are essentially traveling without a license plate, and the potential outcomes include an immediate redirection to the junk folder. The second pillar is DKIM, which stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. If SPF is the authorized truck, DKIM is the tamper-proof digital wax seal on the envelope itself. It uses a complex cryptographic signature to verify that the email was actually sent by your domain, and crucially, that it has not been intercepted or altered in transit. In 2026, where phishing attacks have become more sophisticated than ever, this digital signature is the primary way a mailbox provider confirms the integrity of your message. If the signature does not match the public key you have published in your DNS records, the email is viewed as a high-security risk. The third and most powerful pillar is DMARC, or Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. This is the overarching policy that tells the receiving server exactly what to do if an email fails the SPF or DKIM tests. Before DMARC was widely adopted, if an email failed authentication, it might still occasionally land in the inbox. Today, DMARC allows you to set a strict instruction. If the email isn't authenticated, quarantine it or reject it entirely. By setting a strong DMARC policy, you are telling the world that your brand is secure. This significantly boosts your sender reputation score, which is a hidden metric every email provider maintains for your business. Let us look at a case study of a character named Brian, who operates a specialized home security and smart automation installation business in Phoenix, Arizona. Brian had built an impressive list of 2,000 local homeowners who were interested in high-tech security upgrades. In early 2026, he prepared a major seasonal campaign for a new line of advanced facial recognition doorbells. He spent a week crafting the perfect educational series and the final promotional offer. He hit send on his list of 2,000 people and waited for the inquiries to roll in. 3 days later, Brian was confused. He had received 0 replies, and his software showed an open rate of only 4%. Brian assumed his subject lines were poor or that his audience was no longer interested. However, upon investigating his technical infrastructure, he discovered that he had never set up a DMARC record, and his SPF record was outdated because he had recently switched email providers. To the major email servers, Brian's legitimate business emails looked like a phishing scam. He was essentially shouting into a void because 96% of his audience never even knew he had sent an email. Brian spent 20 minutes logging into his domain registrar, updated his TXT records with the correct SPF, DKIM, and DMARC values, and sent a follow-up test. His open rates immediately jumped back to 35%. This was not a marketing failure. It was a technical infrastructure failure. Imagine the cumulative loss of revenue if Brian had continued to send emails for an entire year without fixing these records. He would have been burning money on lead acquisition while his primary communication channel was broken. You can avoid this by taking 10 minutes to audit your DNS settings today. Most major email service providers now offer a simple, step-by-step verification tool that tells you exactly which records you need to copy and paste into your domain host, whether you use GoDaddy, Namecheap, or Google Domains. This is the foundation. You cannot build a skyscraper of profit on a swamp of poor deliverability. Beyond these technical pillars, there is another hidden factor in 2026 that determines whether you reach the primary inbox or the promotional tab: the engagement loop. Email providers now track how many people replied to your emails, how many people marked them as important, and how many people move them from the promotional tab to the primary inbox. This creates a sender score, which is essentially a credit score for your email domain. If you have a high sender score, your emails get VIP treatment. If you have a low score, you struggle to get noticed. The fastest way to boost your sender score is to encourage a simple two-way interaction. Instead of just broadcasting information, you should occasionally ask your subscribers a direct, easy-to-answer question. For example, in your first welcome email, you might say, "I am so glad you joined. To make sure I only send you the most relevant information, could you hit reply and just tell me what your biggest challenge is with home security right now?" When a subscriber replies to your email, it sends a massive positive signal to their email provider. It tells the algorithm that this person knows you, trusts you, and wants to hear from you. This single reply can guarantee that your next 10 emails land in their primary inbox. By mastering the technical pillars and initiating the engagement loop, you have now secured the delivery of your message. Your digital infrastructure is professional, secure, and highly respected by the gatekeepers of the internet. You have the stage and the microphone is turned on. But having the microphone on is only half the battle. Now you have to decide what to say. Many business owners get through the technical hurdles only to freeze when it comes time to actually write the content. They worry about being too boring, too professional, or too informal. They struggle with the voice of their brand. In 2026, there is a specific high-conversion writing style called the personality-driven narrative that outperforms generic corporate speak every single time. It allows you to build a deep, personal connection with thousands of people simultaneously. So, how do you find your unique brand voice and write emails that people actually enjoy reading while they are drinking their morning coffee? This is the secret to turning a list of names into a community of advocates. Finding your unique brand voice in 2026 starts with the realization that the era of polished, professional corporate speak is officially dead. We are currently living in a digital landscape saturated by high-quality, perfectly manicured AI-generated content. Consumers are being bombarded by thousands of messages a day that all sound exactly the same: sterile, safe, and utterly forgettable. To stand out in an American small business market that is more competitive than ever, you have to lean into the one thing an algorithm cannot replicate: your human perspective. This is where the personality-driven narrative comes into play. It is a specific style of communication that blends high-value information with relatable human entertainment. In the industry, we often call this infotainment. It is the secret to moving your subscribers from people who tolerate your emails to people who genuinely advocate for your brand. Let us dive into a detailed case study of a character named Emily, who owns a boutique specialty pet supply store in Nashville, Tennessee. When Emily first started her email list, she followed the traditional corporate playbook. Every Thursday morning, she would send a beautifully designed HTML template with high-resolution photos of dog toys and a generic subject line that said "Weekly Specials at Emily's Pet Shop." Her open rates hovered around 15%, and her click-through rate was less than 1%. Her audience saw her as just another retailer trying to sell them something. She was a line item in their inbox, not a part of their lives. In early 2026, Emily decided to completely dismantle her approach. She stopped using the heavy, slow-loading templates and switched to simple, plain-text emails that looked like they were coming from a friend. She stopped writing about specials and started writing about the chaotic reality of living with 3 rescue dogs in a small Nashville apartment. One Tuesday, she sent an email titled "The Sourdough Starter Incident of 2026. In the email, she described how her golden retriever had managed to countersurf and consume an entire bowl of fermenting dough, leading to a minor emergency and a very gassy dog. She told the story with humor and vulnerability. At the very end, she pivoted to a lesson about the importance of high-quality digestive enzymes for dogs after dietary indiscretions, and she included a link to a specific supplement she sold in her store. The potential outcomes of this shift were immediate and staggering. Her open rate jumped to 45%. People were not just opening the email, they were replying to it. Dozens of customers sent back their own stories of their dogs eating things they shouldn't have. By sharing a personal story that was relatable to every pet owner, Emily had successfully broken through the corporate wall. She wasn't just a shop owner anymore. She was a fellow pet parent who understood the struggle. This is the power of the friend-to-friend tone. When your emails feel like they are written specifically for the recipient by a person they actually know, the psychological resistance to being sold to virtually disappears. To implement this yourself, you need to master the 4-step personality-driven framework. The first step is the curiosity-driven subject line. In 2026, the goal of the subject line is not to describe what is inside the email. Its only job is to get the email opened. Instead of weekly marketing tips, try the mistake that cost me $3,000 on a Tuesday. The second step is the human hook. Start your email in the middle of a story. Do not start with "Dear subscriber" or "I hope you are having a great week." Start with "I was standing in the middle of my kitchen with flour on my face when I realized I had messed up." This immediately pulls the reader in. The third step is the subtle pivot. This is where you connect your personal story to a broader business lesson or a specific product benefit. If you are a consultant in New York, you might tell a story about a delayed subway train and pivot it into a lesson about the importance of having redundant systems in a business workflow. If you are a landscape architect in Florida, you might talk about a summer storm that ruined your weekend plans and pivot it into the necessity of proper drainage in garden design. The pivot must feel natural. It shouldn't feel like a jarring jump into a sales pitch. It should feel like a logical conclusion to the story you just told. The fourth step is the soft call to action. Because you have built so much trust and engagement in the body of the email, you don't need to use aggressive, high-pressure language. A simple "if you want help with your drainage project, you can book a call here" is often more effective than a flashing "buy now" button. Historical trends in 2026 indicate that consumers are far more likely to click on a text-based link that is integrated into a narrative than a large, colorful graphic button that screams advertisement. Imagine if you spent just 15 minutes a morning documenting the small, interesting, or frustrating things that happen in your business. Every one of those moments is a potential email. Your customers want to see the behind-the-scenes reality. They want to know about the time you almost quit, the time a customer made you cry with a kind review, or the time you discovered a massive flaw in your own process. By being a real person in their inbox, you are building an emotional reservoir that protects you against the competition. When a big box retailer moves into town and tries to underprice you, your customers won't leave, because they don't have a relationship with the big box retailer. They have a relationship with you. This is how you turn a list of names into a community of advocates. When your subscribers feel like they know you, they become your most effective marketing force. They will forward your emails to their friends. They will talk about your stories at dinner parties. They will defend your brand if someone leaves a negative review online. You are no longer just a commodity. You are a personality. You are a human being who happens to provide a great service or product. However, there is a final vital piece to this puzzle that we have yet to discuss. You can have the best stories, the perfect technical setup, and the most irresistible lead magnets in the world, but none of it matters if you burn out and stop sending. The number one reason American small businesses fail with email marketing is not a lack of talent or a poor product. It is a lack of consistency. Maintaining this machine while also actually running your business can feel like an impossible task. You are already wearing 10 different hats. You are the CEO, the janitor, the accountant, and the customer service representative. How do you find the time to be a world-class email marketer as well? There is a way to build this entire system so that it runs on autopilot, requiring less than 2 hours of your time per month while still maintaining that deeply personal human touch. How do you transition from being the manual operator of your list to being the architect of a self-sustaining marketing machine? This is the final frontier of the email deep dive. To transition from being a manual operator to becoming the architect of a self-sustaining marketing machine, you must adopt the philosophy of the perpetual content engine. In the fast-paced American business environment of 2026, the most successful entrepreneurs are not the ones working the hardest on their daily outreach. They are the ones who have built systems that work while they are focused on high-level strategy or simply taking a weekend off in the Great Smoky Mountains. The primary obstacle to this transition is the psychological burden of consistency. Most business owners view email marketing as a recurring chore, like taking out the trash or filing quarterly taxes. They believe they have to sit down every Tuesday morning, stare at a blank cursor, and summon creative genius out of thin air. This approach is mathematically destined to fail. To move into the architect phase, you must implement 3 core structural pillars: content batching, the evergreen shadow newsletter, and the automated hygiene protocol. Let us examine the historical trends and potential outcomes of this shift through a case study of Thomas, who owns an independent specialty bookstore and community hub in Portland, Maine. In the competitive landscape of 2026, Thomas was struggling to keep pace with national digital retailers. He knew his local expertise was his greatest asset, but he was too busy managing inventory and hosting local events to write the weekly literary analysis emails his audience loved. He was a manual operator, sporadically sending emails whenever he felt a surge of guilt. His engagement was inconsistent, and his revenue was unpredictable. Thomas decided to implement the batching pillar. Instead of trying to be creative every single week, he blocked out one Tuesday a month as his Chief Marketing Officer day. During this 4-hour block, he utilized the personality-driven frameworks we discussed and wrote 4 to 5 high-value emails at once. He focused on the recurring themes his customers cared about: local author spotlights, heritage book restoration tips, and curated reading lists for the main winter. By writing in a single sitting, he maintained a consistent brand voice and eliminated the daily anxiety of what to send next. He scheduled these emails in advance using his automation software, ensuring that for the next 30 days, his business would remain at the top of his customers' inboxes without him having to log in a single time. However, batching is only the first level of architecture. The true breakthrough for Thomas came when he developed the Evergreen Shadow newsletter. This is a concept that very few American small businesses utilize, yet it represents the ultimate form of digital leverage. Thomas realized that for any new subscriber who joined his list in 2026, his best emails from 2024 and 2025 were entirely new content. He took his top 10 most opened, most replied to emails from the previous 2 years and organized them into a long-term automated sequence. Now, when a person in Portland signs up for his list, they don't just get a welcome email. They are automatically entered into a 6-month journey of his greatest hits. This shadow newsletter runs quietly in the background, delivering his best stories and his most persuasive offers to every new lead on autopilot. Thomas essentially cloned his best salesmanship and set it to repeat for every person who enters his ecosystem. Imagine the freedom of this system. Imagine if every person who discovered your business today was automatically guided through a year-long, high-value narrative that you wrote once and haven't touched since. You are decoupling your income from your time. While Thomas is in the back of his shop organizing a rare book collection, his automated engine is building trust, sharing his origin story, and making offers to hundreds of people simultaneously. This is how a small business in Maine competes with a multi-billion-dollar corporation in Seattle. You aren't outspending them. You are out-systemizing them. But even a perfect engine needs a filtration system, which brings us to the third pillar: the automated hygiene protocol. A common mistake in 2026 is the obsession with list size. Many owners cling to inactive subscribers because they fear the perceived loss of reaching a smaller number. Historical trends indicate that an email list naturally depreciates by approximately 22% every year. People change jobs, they switch email providers, or they simply lose interest in a specific topic. If you continue to send emails to people who haven't opened a single message in 6 months, you are actively damaging your sender reputation and paying your software provider for the privilege of being ignored. The architect implements a re-engagement automation. If a subscriber hasn't interacted with an email in 90 days, the system automatically triggers a short, 3-email sequence designed to either spark their interest or remove them from the list. A highly effective technique used this year is the 9-word email. It is a plain text message with a subject line that simply says their name. The body of the email asks a single direct question: are you still interested in learning about book restoration? If they reply or click, they stay. If they don't, the system automatically unsubscribes them. This keeps the list lean, hyper-engaged, and highly respected by the major email filters. It ensures that when you do have a major announcement or a seasonal promotion, your emails land in the primary inbox of the people who actually want to buy. By implementing these 3 pillars, you transition from a business that has an email list to an email-driven business. You have created an asset that increases in value every single day. If you ever decide to sell your enterprise, you aren't just selling a storefront or a warehouse. You are selling a predictable, automated revenue-generating machine. You have the technical infrastructure of SPF, DKIM, and mark protecting your voice. You have the 3-tag system categorizing your audience. You have the personality-driven narrative building deep human trust. And you have the perpetual engine ensuring the work is done without your constant presence. The year 2026 is the year of the owned audience. The American small businesses that survive this decade will be the ones that refuse to stay trapped on the rented land of social media. They will be the ones that understood that an email list is not just a marketing tool, but the very heartbeat of their commercial stability. You now possess the entire blueprint, from the high-stakes hook of the lead magnet to the technical nuances of global deliverability. You have moved from the confusion of the digital noise into the clarity of a direct consumer relationship. The only remaining question is how quickly you will move to secure your future. The algorithms will change again tomorrow. The cost of ads will continue to climb next month. The only thing you can truly rely on is the list of people who have given you permission to speak to them. You have the knowledge. You have the framework. Now it is time to build the engine that will sustain your American dream for years to come. In our next session, we will be pivoting from the strategic architecture of the list to the tactical implementation of your first high conversion landing page, where we will break down the exact design elements that turn a curious visitor into a committed subscriber in less than 3 seconds. Are you ready to see the visual layout that is currently outperforming everything else in the US market?